Right, Chris, we're back again for another episode of Don't Shoot the Messenger. This is your podcast where people get a deep dive into who Chris Ball is. Is sales a dirty word when it comes to financial services and financial planning? Because often people think it is.
Like, first time I meet you, go, "Hi Sam, how you doing, mate? How's your wife?" You'd be like, "What? Like, what do you mean, how's my wife?" Someone feeling pressured to make a decision, in my mind, is not a good sell.
Why some people, do you think, struggle with the act and the art of selling?
I'm actually going to go away and I'm going to come back with the right answer. That's the best way to deal with it. Not, you're not expected to know everything to start off with.
There are lots of exams that you have to do, and very often you hear people say, "I did all these exams and nothing in that book I actually end up talking to somebody about when I talk to them on the phone."
Sales is the art of getting your point across in a manner that you can influence other people.
I always find those types of questions really get a bit deeper because you start to actually understand what that person actually knows and what they don't know. Right, Chris, we're back again for another episode of Don't Shoot the Messenger. This is your podcast where people get a deep dive into who Chris Ball is. Is he who he says he is?
Hopefully.
You're a massive fan of sales, and today we're going to talk about how sales has really impacted you personally, your life, and what part it plays in building a successful business. And I think we should definitely touch on, is sales a dirty word when it comes to financial services and financial planning? Because often people think it is. We like to sort of deep dive and understand what you think about that. Is that true or not? So first off, really, Chris, I'm going to ask you a bit of an open question. What does sales mean to you?
Sales is the art of getting your point across in a manner that you can influence other people. So a lot of people, I feel, there's a big misunderstanding around sales. A lot of people have this stereotype image of sales, which is a used car salesman coming out to you on the lot and pressurizing you into taking it there and then. That for me is not sales, and actually I think that's shit sales, for want of a better word. Someone feeling pressured to make a decision, in my mind, is not a good sell. Now, you have to create urgency and all the rest of this stuff, which we'll come on to, but someone should walk away feeling good about their decision. They should not have buyer's remorse. So sales for me is really getting your point across in a manner that the other person understands and ultimately wants to take action on, or not, as the case may be. So I'll present you the facts. I'll tell you, I'll try and help you understand the problems that you have. I will then help you understand the solutions. And then you have all of the information to make your decision on. You don't come away feeling unclear. You don't come away feeling overwhelmed. That to me is selling.
Okay, great stuff. So talk to me a little bit about why some people, do you think, struggle with the act and the art of selling?
I think you're right when you say it's an art. It definitely is an art because it's different for different people and different people sell in different ways. I believe that everyone feels that you have to sell the same. The way that I sell to people is very structured. Other people I know, they don't have a lot of structure, but they are naturally quite good at talking and they're very charismatic and they actually get you to like them, and then that's why you want to buy from them. So it's interesting, but for me, how I really approach selling is the first thing that I try and do is I really try and understand what it is that I am looking to sell. Like, I have to have a deep understanding personally, and I feel that a lot of people have a misconception around that, in the fact that they believe that they need to know everything and then they need to impart absolutely everything on the person they're trying to sell to. So what we do with financial planning is complex. There is a hell of a lot of information you need to know. So a lot of people go, before I'm even going to talk to someone, I need to know absolutely everything I can do about this, topics, all these areas, all these points. And I think that's true, but also you need to have enough, you need to be able to give enough information to people so they can take bits off of it. So what resonates with them, what points are important to them. And then if they ask you a question on it, you need to have the ability to be able to deep dive into it.
Okay. So do you follow a set process? Because that sounds quite like process driven.
Rigid, yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like as well that you aren't leaning into the fear of being caught out. And I think you talked about financial planning there. You run a financial planning business. It's heavily regulated. There are lots of exams that you have to do. And very often you hear people say, I did all these exams and nothing in that book I actually end up talking to somebody about when I talk to them on the phone.
Yeah.
But there is this preconceived fear, I think, that somebody's going to get caught out if they don't know absolutely everything. So they would spend a lot of their time on the theory as opposed to perhaps the pain points and the problems that the client or customer might well be experiencing. So from your background, how do you approach like the process of selling your services to a client in a way that's got a simple rhythmic process that anybody can pick up and actually do?
So I think first off, you need to have an understanding of the basic concepts clearly. If someone turns around to you and says, what's an ISA? And you don't know what an ISA is, or what's an IRA in the US and you have no idea what an IRA is, you're going to lose credibility pretty quickly. But if they ask you about a complex derivative or something like that, you may or may not know, but that's not your area of expertise, or a complex piece of tax legislation that you may or may not know. Now, if you hit it and you nail it, then great, you are going to look good. But also with those complex pieces, I actually prefer when someone says, I don't know on that exact area, or I'm 50-50 on what the answer is. I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm actually going to go away and I'm going to come back with the right answer. That's the best way to deal with it. Not, you're not expected to know everything to start off with. The process that I go through selling is really simple. So the first thing that I do, if I am speaking to a client, is I want to build a bit of rapport. It's like your gears in a car, I think is the best way of saying it. So if you go from first to fifth, what happens? You stall. Mm-hmm. So the first bit is the rapport. And a lot of people overlook that or don't pay enough attention to it. So with rapport, you want to ease into it. And what you want to do with that is you want to go, okay, like first time I meet you, go, hi Sam, how you doing, mate? How's your wife? You've got what? Like what? What do you mean? How's my wife?
Lazy.
Like,
lazy.
Exactly. Lazy. It's like when how old are your kids? Like one of the first questions is like no. Like how's your day going? What have you been up to this week? It's been a busy week. Like you ease into the conversation. You don't start with intrusive questions straight away is probably what I'm trying to say. You can build up to more intrusive questions, but you have to earn that right. And also, a lot of people mistake rapport with them just talking. Okay, rapport. God gave you two of these and one of these. And a lot of people do not get that point. They feel that they have to talk, when really what they should be doing is listening. If you think of any good conversation you've had with someone, they've normally done not a lot of talking and it's normally been you. You come away and go, oh, that was a really good conversation. But it was a really good conversation for you. It might not have been for them. But when you're building rapport with a client, you need to make them feel important. You need to make them feel heard. And you shouldn't be talking over the top. The next bit is you. So you've built some rapport. You might have got a couple of laughs, a couple of mutual talking points. We haven't done an 11-a-reef, which is if I've been to Tenerife, you've been to 11-a-reef. Like trying to do this one-man upmanship we see a lot. And then now you're coming on and you're going to introduce your business, elevator pitch, some people call it. I call it an introduction. Couple of minutes, shouldn't be anything boring. Company that you work with and a bit about you that's interesting. Not that where you walk your dog, but how long you've been doing it for, exams that you have. And again, if you've got 200 exams, just keep it very high level to the most important ones. And then it should, and then you try and take the conversation back to what you were initially talking about, which is financial planning. So one of the key transition questions I would use there is, so do you work with a financial planner at the moment? And they'll either say no or yes. But my next kind of bit is still the same. Okay, so you work with a financial planner. What do you have? Okay, so you don't work with a financial planner. What have you done in the way of looking after your finances so far? What do you have? Yeah? And then what I'm trying to get next is understand the assets or what potentially the issues could be. And then I'll start asking probing questions to understand what's important for them and what points we want to tackle first. At no point am I selling. At no point am I starting to give advice. This is all during my first meeting, introductory chat with the client. I'm not trying to walk out of there going, yeah, now they're going to get a sip or they're going to get this. I want to find out what's important to them in that first meeting and understand what I need to go away and prepare to show them at the next meeting, which will be a bit of a presentation, which we'll come on to in a minute. But I'm not selling in that first meeting. In that first meeting, I'm really understanding what is important to the client, what are their key pain points, and trying to build trust around us, as in me and the business that I work with.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely.
So that is quite structured, yes.
Yeah, well, it is a set structure, and it's a structure that I definitely follow. Always start off with a bit of rapport and get just deep down into what they are doing. So what are you doing? Like we're talking, like for example, with me, I phoned up someone recently, quite a decent sized platform, and they wanted a podcast, right? And I was like, well, what are you doing? Why do you want a podcast? What have you done so far? What's the overarching mission? What are you trying to achieve from it?
Yeah.
I always find those types of questions really get a bit deeper because you start to actually understand what that person actually knows and what they don't know.
Yeah.
And then you can start to layer in real world examples of things that you've done where you've helped other people, or you can correct their thinking about timescales and expectations and the work and the effort and the energy that goes into it.
Yeah.
So before you've even talked about the budget, what you're doing is I'm setting the scene for the work and the energy that has to go into it, but these are the reasons why, and this is a success I've had over here in doing it. And then when it comes down to like the end bit where they ask me about how much does it cost, at least I've given them an explanation in the beginning of all the pain points and the problems they have at the moment, the things they're not doing, and how I can offer those solutions and how long it's going to take. And this is why it costs this much.
So there's two great things that all good salesmen do. First one is they deal with objections before you've even thought of them. Yeah. So one of the objections you're trying to deal with there is value.
Yep.
Yeah. The value, which is the cost. So if you go, right, I'm going to speak to you about podcasts before we've even talked, it's 50 grand, 200 grand, whatever it might be. That's a big number. But I know that's going to be an objection if I don't build it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build it up along the way. So I'm showing the value that I will bring. So when we talk about the cost or the investment, I like to think that you will make into getting this, you understand the value. And if you can't attribute a value to something as a human, you will not part with your money to it. If you think it's good value, you will be much more inclined to move forward. If you think it's poor value, you will not want to move ahead. And that's why selling is not telling. So if I tell you why it's good value, that's me telling you. Whereas if you're coming up with why it's good value yourself, because it's dealing with all the problems that you have, problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution. At the end, when I say this is my fee, you're like, great, this is fantastic. This solves everything that I wanted it to.
I think it's really, really important as well that desperation doesn't come across. That you're desperate to do business with that person. You're desperate to sign that person up as a client. Yeah. I think desperation is very obvious.
Yeah.
And that's something that you have to try to control. But I also think that comes through having a genuine interest in the person you're actually speaking to.
Definitely. It's what brands do all the time. If you think of brands, so if you think of, let's say, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, the rest of this stuff, drives me insane, but it's very clever. It makes you wait outside the shop. That's I don't need you. You can sit outside for a few minutes while we deal with the people that are in it, and then we'll let you in and we'll give you a nice experience. That builds intrigue, it builds mystique, it builds, I want this now. I'm having to wait for it. Whereas if you go past the shop that has 50% closing down sale or 50% off on it, you don't get that same kind of, I need this, or, there's real value behind this.
I spoke to a YouTube strategist recently and told me that he only takes on 4 clients at a time.
Yeah. That's the oldest trick you
yeah.
can get, yeah.
But I loved
of course
it.
You do, mate, yeah.
But I do love that.
I know, because you're a salesman, and salesmen are the easiest people to sell to.
100%. I'm a nightmare to sell to.
Laughing it up. Oh my God, he's got 4 people. What one are you on at the moment? I'm on number 3.
Do you find though, actually it's an interesting thing that you just said then, salespeople are the easiest people to sell
100%.
to. Why is that? Why, is it because we almost kind of want to...
Just like a puppy in the shop.
We're like, yeah. You want to hear more and you're kind of telling more and like...
Yeah.
I'm a nightmare to be sold to. Absolutely.
Easiest people to sell to.
100%. What about things like, look, I was chatting to Chloe earlier, actually, and we were talking about sales and where in your life you learn specific aspects of the sales process, right? And you're 18 years old, let's say 19 years old.
Yeah.
Are you going to walk straight into, say, a consultancy role and be able to know how to operate in an environment where there's a level of detail and a level of empathy, emotional intelligence and experience required to be able to build the level of rapport that's needed when someone's like 18, 19 years old and maybe they're early on in their career? And I'll reflect back onto when I was around that age, right? I was, one of the first jobs that I ever had was working for Stay Bright Windows. So I'd finished college at 16, go above this bloody cafe and room at the top, and it was Stay Bright double glazing windows. And they'd give me a piece of paper with all the telephone numbers out the book. And I used to have to go through it and just phone people. That was my job. Bang, bang, bang. And I was 16 years old. Now, that to me, at that age, taught me about resilience, taught me that 95% of the people that you're going to speak to are not going to be interested. And you aren't going to get to the person that's going to be interested unless you keep pushing forward. So do you feel like someone has to cut their teeth in a job where it's almost a numbers game, first of all, to be able to really see the value of, persistency and resilience later on down the line, and grit? Like, do you have to go through that shit?
Yes.
Before you get the glory later
100%.
on?
I mean, I'll tell you about my sales journey.
Yeah.
So let's be completely frank. I was horrendous at sales. So it wasn't just magically at sales. I started off life as an accountant at KPMG. They do not teach you how to sell, number one. Yeah, that doesn't come into it. And actually, like, if you look at super successful entrepreneurs and people, typically they're highly intelligent, which actually is counterproductive to them being good salespeople. You can learn sales. Some people are naturally born with the gift of the gab. They're really likable. They've got lots of charisma. They don't have to work at it. It's like this innate talent. And some people have to work on it a lot. Unfortunately for me, I was in that I had to work on it a lot. I was not good at sales. Other famous people that weren't good at sales, Warren Buffett. The number one investment he said he made out of his whole career was in a Dale Carnegie speaking course that he went to, which enabled him to get his ideas across to other people. Public speaking, he used to get up there and wilt. And if you heard him speak or whatever, I mean, like, the guy's a god, obviously, but he is an amazing public speaker. And public speaking is selling. So, I started off my career at KPMG. I wasn't selling. And I decided, like most people, that actually I want to earn a bit of money on the side. Not like most people, but I want to earn a bit of money on the side. So I'm going to start a tax preparation business. Like most people who start a business, I was way more concentrated on building the website, getting an 0800 number, developing all this rubbish that wasn't actually involved in selling my product. I then realised I had a website, I had an 0800 number, which no one was calling, and I probably needed to go out and start trying to sell this. So my idea of selling at that point was going to create some leaflets. I put them in a cafe, Radlett Cafe, on the hope that someone would pick them up. No one did, obviously, because they were leaflets. Who goes to a cafe looking for a tax advisor? I actually picked up my wife through offering her a tax return, which is actually interesting. Well, that's another story. But I then decided, actually, I probably got to do some cold calling. I called up a hairdresser's. The lady answered the phone. I had no idea what I was going to say. I was like, is this the hairdressers? I'm calling up to see if people, would like their tax return done. And she probably thought I was HMRC or something, like checking up on whether they're doing their tax returns. And I completely bottled it, hung up, and was like, I'm not doing that again. And safe to say, the business flopped. It wasn't a massive success. I did a few tax returns. I got some referrals off people, but it wasn't to where we were now. Didn't touch selling since then. Then I got approached by James to come and work with him and his dad at the previous company that I was at, De Vere, and he basically said, You're going to come in, you're going to be a coordinator. I had no idea really what a coordinator was. You know, we do asset management, all the rest of this stuff. And one of the things we've got to do is we've got to go out and try and find new clients. So that'll be, you know, part of your role. Won't be all of it, but it'll be a big part of your role when you come in. Let's practice some calls together. So I used to call James up on my lunch hour and practice my calls. And they were crap. Like, they were so bad. I couldn't get my words out. I had a habit of saying no at the end of my sentence all the time. And he was like, if you say no to someone, they're going to say no back. So I'd be like, Sam, you interested in this? No. And he went, no, I'm not interested in this, you little wally. Hang up, you know, kind of thing. And we went through that for a month before I came out. I was getting better, but it wasn't real life training. And then I got out to Abu Dhabi and I basically got handed a list of numbers, a mobile telephone with some credit on it, and get calling, start booking these people in. And that was like coals to the, you know, your feet to the fire. You're right at the coal face of this. And it was eye-opening. Like, and actually, I hated it. I used to go and take myself out of the room so no one could hear me. I'd go and sit in, they had a filing room at the time. I'd sit in between the filing cabinets and try and do my calls to try and get better. And it was a hard time. But every call I was making, I was getting slightly better. And my boss at the time, I was like, I'm struggling with this. He was like, Graham, who is one of these people that are just a natural salesman, likable, and really affirmable, just would know what to say at any point. He's like, give me the phone. As he's walking out the office with his briefcase and his things, like, dial some numbers, give me the phone when one of them answers. So walking out the office, person comes on the phone and he talks to this person like they're his mate. Hi Sam, how you doing, mate? You all good? We spoke a little while ago. Don't know if you remember. Anyway, I'm going to cut to it. We was talking about tax planning. You said you was of interest to you. Can I come and see you at this time? And the guy was like, yeah, that sounds great. It's what I've been looking for a while. And I was like, oh my God, like this isn't insanely complicated. That was the easiest conversation ever. And what he made the person do was feel really comfortable with him straight away. I was going, hello, Sam Oakes. Is now a good time to speak? Yeah. This is Christopher Ball, you know, I was like, oh man. And I automatically knew what I was doing, which was trying to be something I wasn't. However, you need to do the repetitions at the start to get through it. You need to go through the shit at the start to build up resilience. I had thousands and thousands of no's on cold calls to people to build that up and to get there. Yeah. And I used to listen to these guys that were experts at doing it and in their game. They weren't particularly bright, they weren't particularly intelligent, but they all had this really likable and personable element to it. And it was super chill. Like it wasn't like, you know, like really aggressive. It was just so natural. And then that really helped me progress onto becoming, I was number 2 at the end of my first full year with Devere at becoming a business development manager because I was doing it all day, every day, learning, taking it in and going from there. But it was learn, number 1, and number 2, you cannot get better at anything without doing loads and loads of reps.
Yeah, and what I'd definitely pick apart from that is that role-playing is actually a really good thing to do.
It is, but there's nothing like doing.
No, 100%. But I think if you're brand new to something, right, and you chuck somebody in at the deep end, I think if you get the opportunity to actually role-play with somebody before you go out, for example, and I'll give you an example of that, right? So again, I had some shit jobs in my life. Yeah. So I worked for this door knocking company, right? So I was like 17, just got my first suit. And I'm walking around Bristol, knocking on people's doors, trying to get them to sign up to charities, or it was trying to get them to sign up for telecoms to change like their phone bill. So one of the things we used to do before we actually went out, this is 100% commission, by the way. It's like pyramid selling, horrible fucking job. I think it's still there, actually. The guy who runs it's got a Lamborghini parked outside of his door-knocking company.
See?
So he's done it right for himself.
His door-knocking doesn't pay.
Yeah, well, no, he's quite wealthy at the back of it. So we used to go in the morning, and for 2 hours it was just role play, and like people like very American style, like you all stand in a circle, and like someone would come up and just go through all the different processes of how to close people, how to open people.
I think that's great.
How to deal with objections, and you did that every single day, 2 hours before you went out.
Yeah.
So then you were pumped,
Yeah.
and then you were going out obviously on the bus to go to some fucking area to then knock on people's doors. You had to knock on like 100 doors, but that to me was really, really useful as the role play element. Obviously, nothing beats actually getting stuck in and doing it. The second thing which I took from that, which is the biggest hack and the quickest way to become a super successful person, right? In sales is, who the fuck is the best salesperson in that business?
Yeah.
Go over and listen to exactly what they're doing, exactly what they're saying, exactly the tone, how they're doing it, and make it better.
Yeah.
Try to make it better. Try to make it yours. Don't overthink something. Don't reinvent the wheel. Sales have been around since time began. So go and listen to the person who's absolutely super successful. You don't have to sit there and bug the person, but just listen.
Yeah.
And one of those things when we sit and we say the power of actually being in an office, in an environment and being surrounded by people, is the very fact that one, maybe you're not going to role play every single day, you're just going to get stuck in and learn on the job. But two, you've got the people around you that you can pick up and you can learn from. That's super, super important. You're not going to do that on your own at home.
No.
You're not going to do that through watching a YouTube video or listening to a podcast.
No.
You have to be next to somebody who's super successful, copy, replicate, make it better. And that's always helped me whenever I've gone in. So I went into a recruitment business. I left training at Aviva. I was like you, did sales, and kind of like, I don't know, it bored me a little bit, to be honest with you, right? Because the types of sales jobs I did, it was insurance sales. It was I just kind of like found it a bit boring. Went off traveling, came back, and then ended up running a customer service department for Aviva, which is more talking to financial advisors and the customers. I like helping people. That was one of the great things that I learned from being in customer service, was service is everything. How you value that client, your empathy, your emotional intelligence in a situation that can be highly stressful for somebody. Maybe they're making a claim because their husband's just died or whatever and it's not paying out. How do I deal with that situation? How do I deal with a financial advisor who's getting absolutely ratty because they can't, the lesser of authority has gone through and it's 4 weeks later and they still haven't experienced actually getting the information back that's required. So the level of empathy and understanding of emotional intelligence also helps you, I believe, in the sales process as well. So learning good customer service. How do you make somebody happy? How do you make somebody feel important? How do you solve a problem that they have? Which is often why when I go into things, the first thing I want to know is, what's causing you a problem? Because I want to solve the problem. And that's the best way. If I've got a problem and someone says I'm going to solve it for you, I'm like, fuck it, I'm all ears, mate. Tell me how to get through this ping that's bugging the hell out of me. So that's what I picked up from that, and that's some of the things that helped me. When, do you ever there was something that got taught to me earlier on, it was called it was rehashing. So I used to go knock on someone's door, right? And then you have these 5 charities. Each of these 5 charities were £10 a month, right? Yeah. And I would earn, £10 off of each one. So I'd go in, I could sell 5 of them and get 50 quid for every door. So being able to kind of close somebody by giving them an option to take, I would say so what are the 5 charities that on this that you like? And they'd say, I like RSPCA, I like meningitis research. Well, why do you like those? And you get an emotional connection to them. And you say, right, well, out of those 3, which 2 do you want to go with? So it was always like, well, I'll take, you're either going to get 3, or out of those 5, which 3 do you want to go with? Yeah. And you'd either get 3, but I guarantee you're going to get 1 at the end of it. Yeah. So it's giving people the choice of choosing something. It's an assumptive close, isn't it? Yeah. You're just going to get them to walk away. Or. Yeah, either or. So I can work with you this way, as a financial advisor. I can work with you this way. I can work with you on a fee-based basis, or I can work with you on an upfront basis fee, right? So we're ongoing, or we've got an upfront fee basis. These are 2 options that I can choose for you. You get a financial plan. You can walk away and do your own thing, or you can work with me in this way. Which one do you think you would prefer? What best suits your lifestyle? What best suits your budget? What best suits the way that you want to be updated with your personal financial situation? So I think those types of things as well when it comes to closing is really important. What's your kind of aspect when it comes to closing? Because if you don't close, you lose, right? So how important is the close to you when it comes to sales?
Close is listening, and I think it's people closing themselves. So ABC for me is so there's that saying, always be closing. I think it's really important that you listen to the telltale signs when someone is ready to move ahead, and you get good, again, at using this and not using this all the time. So we will take people through a structured presentation. So after that first bit, we go through a presentation. And the presentation is designed to give them all of the information that they need to make a decision. We then have a questions meeting. And then what I'm looking for in that questions meeting is some real simple things. And the normal one that a lot of people miss is, so what are the next steps? We don't ask the next steps if you're not interested in what the next steps are. How much is this going to cost? You know, the parts that you were just talking about there. You know, like all of these are buying questions, and you have to get good at listening for the buying question. When they say, and what are the next steps? I will outline the next steps, and then I will then say, when should we get you booked in for your fact find meeting, or when should we get you booked in for that next step? Yeah. And then it's their choice. They either say this date, or they say, no, I'm not ready because I've got this. And then I get the objection out of what's stopping them. So many people don't close off a meeting because they don't ask the question. They don't ask the closing question. They don't ask right, so the next step is I'm going to take you through to the fact find, or the next step is I'm going to make a proposal or go away and draft my suitability report. Are you ready? Are you ready to go through with that? And as soon as they say yes, that's it. It's done. Like, you're moving forward. You are not going back and then trying to resell, or you don't just cut the meeting short because you're scared to ask them if they do want to move ahead or not. And I think a lot of people don't do that in life in general. It always amuses me when people so selling is everywhere. It amuses me when I know someone's coming to speak to me about a specific topic. They want to raise, they want to talk about something that's going on, or they want an answer to something. I'm not going to give you the answer unless you ask me the question. I know what you're here for, but if you want to raise and you come to me and you're not going to ask for the raise, I'm not going to scoot around it. Like, you're not closing me off. You're not building me up, asking the question, which is, I want to earn an extra 10 grand a year or whatever it is. How do I do that? Or is that possible? And so many people are afraid to ask the question. It's the worst that someone has ever said to me when I've been selling to them is no. No one's ever leant across the desk and smacked me full blown in the face, believe it or not. No one has ever screamed at me and told me to F off and get out of their office. I've never, ever had any of that. So if the worst that someone can say to you is no, and then your question is, okay, I completely understand it's no, but why? What chance do you have? So the number one piece of advice I would give to people on closing is ask the question. Ask for the referrals, ask for the business, and book in the next meetings. That's another key bit that people miss out as well. They say, yes, I want to go ahead, great. And then they go, okay, fine, someone will be in touch and we'll go from there. I mean, what a way to lose urgency out of the process. You would be shocked at the amount of people that won't do it. And they will come up with all types of excuses. They will say, I didn't ask because it didn't feel like the right time. I didn't ask to have the next meeting because I could see that they were looking at their diary to for what they had on next. Yeah. That's bullshit. Like, if you are in a process, you need to book in the next step when you are sat there with the person, because then it's in their diary, it's in yours. You get them to accept, you're moving on. You haven't got to worry about that afterwards. You lose urgency, and that's another big reason why people lose sales.
Yeah, I like that. Definitely. Close them out, get them in the diary for the next stage.
100%.
Also, as well, articulating what the actual stages are, I think, is a really powerful thing to do, and what each stage and why each stage.
What's coming next?
Yeah, what's coming next, and what you're going to gain from it, as well. Because you're building them up, aren't you?
Definitely.
If someone's kind of like umming and ahhing about their finances, they don't know when they're going to retire, they've got no idea how to do it, and then you're saying, right, well, step one is this, step one is two, step two is this, and step three, you're actually going to work out some serious clarity, because I'm going to sit down with you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then by the end of it, this is what's going to happen. But first off, what we need to do is really dig deep into you and understand who you are, what your mission is, what your journey is, what really you do care about, and that's a fact find. So when can I put that into the diary?
Overwhelm is a massive reason why people don't move ahead.
Yeah.
So they feel overwhelmed and they feel scared and they don't know what's coming next. If you lay out a process And a great document to have is an agenda document. So you have an agenda document and you have what you're going to cover in that meeting. But then at the bottom, you have where you are in the process. So process 1 is introduction. Process 2 is probably a bit of a presentation. Number 3 step is more of a fact find to get more detailed information from you. Number 4, we will assess for suitability. Number 5 is where you will move across. And at the start of each meeting, next to your agenda, you circle. We're at this part. So they know what's coming next. They don't feel overwhelmed. They don't feel scared that what's going to happen next. And they understand what you're going through in that meeting there and then. There's a clear agenda that's been set. And that's a real simple thing you could do on every single meeting. But again, people try and wing it. They try and blag it. They don't have a structure or process in place. And that's how I managed to take on $250 million of assets. 5 years, I had a structure, I had a process, and I followed it to the T.
So we're talking a little bit about when you've actually literally got somebody who's got interest sitting on a Zoom call with you, right? That's a really great time. But there's a bit before that, which is the prospecting element, right?
Yeah.
You've got to go out and you've got to find clients. Now,
You've got to do loads of it.
yeah, and there's a lot. Yes, there's a lot of going out and speaking to people. There's a lot of picking up the phones. Now that could be via leads that have come in via some paid advertising. It could be your social media content. It could be the fact that you're going out and doing some networking. But how do you kind of like make a positive impact within that first minute? How do you get somebody to really understand who you are within that first minute so you can get them booked into that more in-depth meeting that creates a sense of like if they're there, then they are ready. In my head, if they're on a call with me, then they're ready. But if they don't, in the first instance, so I've got to make them understand that there is a value to actually getting on that call with me.
Well, I think it all comes back to initially from calling or from marketing or whatever. So it all comes back to the leads that you're generating. Yeah. So you will generate leads initially. You will then call the leads. So leads can be generated a number of different ways. We can go out and network. It's very untargeted networking because I could sit in a bar. I don't know if people are interested or not, but they might be in a nicer bar, in a nicer area, which means they might have money, which means they might be more open to speaking. But, I don't like that. I find it quite intrusive. The other way is getting lists of people that might be interested in cold outreaching where you can. Obviously, in places like the UK, you can't. But in other parts of the world, you can do that. I find that super highly targeted because we know that these people could potentially have a problem. We will reach out and offer our services. I mean, realistically, how many people wake up in the morning and go, today I need to sort my pension out, or today I need to get control of my finances? They don't. It normally takes someone spurring them on. The other one is obviously, again, which is super targeted, which will be introducers. Now, a lot of people target on this, specifically in the UK. They go, I'm going to go and speak to an accountant. I'm going to go and schmooze lawyers and stuff like that. And I do get that's great. It's a very long game. And you have to build that up over time, and that won't happen overnight. And then if you're lucky enough to have clients, the other key one is referrals. So who else do you know, and getting kind of referrals from them. And then obviously we've got all the paid advertising as well. You can run a advert to a subset of people with something that might be interesting in them, which is called the hook. You hook them in with that, which is normally some kind of lead magnet, which is a free giveaway. And then you have their information, you pick up the telephone or you send them emails or WhatsApps and get them in from there. So how targeted your data that you are speaking to will be how good or how well you manage to book these people in. If you have a list of 100 people that have no interest in your service or could possibly have zero interest in your service, like for instance, if I'm calling Americans about UK pensions, they're American. They don't have a UK pension. What's the point? It can be as good as I like. So the first thing to get right is who are you speaking to, those leads. The next thing when you've got them on the phone is understanding whether it's a warm or a cold lead. Very different outreach. Warm leads, easy. You've shown an interest. I'm following up on that interest. You've downloaded my guide. Let's get a time in to speak about this with an expert. Then you're qualifying and getting the information out of it. Cold, you've got to create that element or that spark very quickly. And a good way to do that with people is to be very upfront. I am calling you, Sam, about this. I know that you've worked here because I can see it from your profile. LinkedIn is an amazing tool. So I can see that you've worked in the US for Microsoft. You're now back in the UK. I know you've probably paid into a 401k when you're there. Who's looking after that for you at the moment and who's managing it? Because what we're finding is a lot of people are really struggling with that part, knowing that you probably are struggling with it, because I know that that's a real problem. Super targeted, I've asked you the question. It's either a yes or no. I'm not beating around the bush. I'm not trying to speak to you about some topic and then bring it back. In those first few seconds, I've told you what I'm calling about, so you know.
Yeah.
And then you make a decision at that point of whether or not. Now, if someone calls me up and is direct, I'm not really going to go, "Who are you?" And what do you want? But I'm actually quite impressed that they've done the research already and they know this information. I would probably ask them how they know the information and say, "Well, you're on LinkedIn; it tells me on there." Yeah. Okay, all right, fair enough, great, and then move from there. But warm, tell them who you are. Cold, be super direct early on.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the whole idea of the whole being niche as well. So being really specific about targeting somebody that you know will have a certain problem, and there's 100 of the people that have that problem as well. So then it also kind of, there is that element of proof, right? So I've spoken to such and such at that law firm. Now I know it's really difficult to, before you actually set your own law firm practice up, maybe you're not earning as much and blah, 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 blah. So, have you thought about life protection, life cover, and putting all the things in place that maybe to prepare you for when you actually end up running your own partner practice? So I know a person who does that specifically with goes back to your idea of networking introducers, is like target clients that will one day be your introducer. Like that's a really powerful thing to do as well. Because then you start to double down and understand exactly what it is that they're doing as a job, what their pain points are. They become your clients, and then as they become more successful in their jobs, they start to refer their own clients into you as well. So I know loads of people who've done that, where they just target accountants, they just target solicitors, PE companies, fund managers, private bankers. They're really good people to target.
Definitely.
Because also they've got a wicked amount of clients that are
You've got a niche.
Interest, yeah.
And we know niches work well. And actually, as a financial advisor, you don't need 20,000 clients unless you operate in a big firm.
Yeah.
You actually only need a couple of hundred to have a really successful business.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be focused on everyone, and you get a really good understanding of actually the problems these people have.
Yeah.
You can talk to them in an educated manner about things that are going on in their industry, which draws them in again. Operating in those niches is really, really important initially.
Yeah.
And then you can be a bit broader if you wish, but why do you need to be all things to all people? That's the surest way of not getting to where you want.
Yeah, 100%. And it's the initial call, isn't it? You just have to have something of interest that is going to grab that person and hook that person.
Volume negates luck.
Yeah.
What always amazes me is I've got no first meetings. And I go, how many calls did you make? I made 10. You need to be making 100 to 150 a day when you first start. There's not, you can't be going around and just dipping your toe into this. And this is another part that people miss massively when they start. Oh, it's really hard. I'm really struggling to find clients. You're not. You're really struggling to put in the work that you need to get to where you want to. You're not doing the right things. The right things at the start is to go and speak to as many people as you possibly can. Yeah, you're not going to end up with the clients now that you will in 20 years' time or 10 years' time as you build your client book out. You have to do as much of it as early on as possible. Up until the point where I stopped, I used to make more calls than any other BDM. When I became an advisor, I would get in early in the morning and I would hit the phones before I would go out and start seeing appointments, because I knew I was a great BDM. So therefore, I would be great at speaking to people and booking them in for myself. I did that the whole way through, up until probably the first year or two of Hoxton. If I had a meeting that swerved, I'd get back on the phones with Kane and we'd be speaking to people, rebooking them in. So many people negate that prospecting thing. They think they're too big for it. Prospecting is the number one thing that you need to do as a financial advisor, bar none. If you are super busy, you need to go and get one person. Then when that one person is not enough, you need to go and get a second person. When that second person isn't enough, you need to go and get 3. At my peak, I had 3 people and me prospecting all day. I had 3 people full-time. All their job was to go out and speak to people and put them in my diary. That's how seriously I took it.
So that's really interesting, right? So you built a team of prospectors around you. That's your model, right? That's your business model, was to be able to put people around you that can go out and prospect.
Do the bits that I couldn't because I was focusing on other things.
Yeah, qualifying them. You're teaching them how to do that, the best way to do it, people to target. They're booking into your diary. You're doing the closing, right? You're seeing the clients doing the closing. How do you then balance the two then? How do you balance like prospecting and actually client services?
Well, if you look at it, I was actually doing 3 to 1. In that example, there was 3 parts prospecting, 1 part of the business. So there's 4 people. 3 parts were prospecting, 1 part was advising. Now, obviously, I was building up a client book. Now I have 3 people that assist me with my clients as well.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of more, I don't have anyone prospecting for me anymore because I'm not taking on any new clients unless they come in referring, because I'm focusing more on the business. I help advisors and go out and speak to clients with them. And, recently I've had a couple of people that want to meet me in the office to make sure that everything is real and that we are who we say we are. But that's a not a key part of my business. But if you're focusing just on prospecting, you're not focusing on your clients, well, guess what? You're going to lose those clients pretty quickly as well. So you do need to invest in that. But you don't need 3 people assisting you with 100 clients straight away. Like, you can do it. And I think, again, that's what people miss, is they don't invest in their business. They don't take the time. They see it as a cost, and it's not a cost. You've got to be investing in things around you to keep on growing. Otherwise, you will never grow.
Yeah, love it. And just on like sort of final note, really, you do a lot of prospecting. You might not close that person in the very first call or book an appointment within that very first call. Like, let's talk about the follow-up, right? Do you just sort of go, well, that person's not interested, see you later?
Rubbish bin.
Bin it. Like, what's your process when it comes to like follow up, and how many times do you have to, on average, reach out to somebody to be able to get them into the diary, for instance? And how important is the follow up?
Super important. I mean, so making sure that you have people around you that can do the follow up is really key. So I was really lucky. Kane, who worked with me, and all my BDMs that I've had along the way as well, I've always drilled into them the importance of following up. Now, Kane takes it to a new level. I mean, he will be speaking to people for 5-6 years, and then they will, because if he says he's going to call you back in 6 months, well, guess what? He called you back in 6 months, and guess what? That's a nice phone call for him because he's already spoken to you 3 times before. He gets it and understands that part of it, where someone goes, oh, they said they're not interested. Well, they're not. It's never a not interested forever. It's a not interested for now, unless they have told you never, ever, ever call me back again under any circumstance, which at that point, obviously, you respect it. But normally people say they're not interested because they don't have the time at that point, or they don't get the value that you're trying to add. So you need to build it up with different touch points. You need to give them material to digest. You need to make sure that you're following up and giving them any things so they are ready at some point. And that no for now is a key point that people do forget. The follow-up is extremely important. I think the more touches you have with someone, the stickier they actually become as a client. Oh, yeah. Where when people, not touching in that way, dirty man. The more that you go, the more that you sit in front of someone, the more that you can give them different materials on what you're doing, and they digest it, and they're actually taking an interest in it. The more likely that is to be a significant client later on, because they've actually taken an interest. And there's years of relationship building up of you saying what you're going to do.
I think as well, like the way we know we've got YouTube, we've got social media, that element of social proof that comes in now in the sales journey as well. If you do that right, they reckon probably nowadays people watch between 3 to 5 videos or pieces of content on somebody before they actually make a decision as to whether or not.
You can automate it now as well.
Yeah.
Before it was just literally, you'd have to remember to send an email out at this point to this person.
Yeah.
You'd have to remember to call them back. Now you can get an email in your inbox which says you need to call these people back today.
Yeah. You
can send stuff to them, your YouTube videos or your email marketing, automated to mass mailing lists. Like, it's not a difficult thing to do.
No. And it's just and also it's giving the ability for that person to put the phone down and check you out. I mean, there's something incredibly powerful of someone being able to type your name into Google and see an abundance of content that is actually demonstrating and proving that you are actually who you say you are, and the services that you provide are actually offering the solutions that you said on the phone.
Definitely.
And I think that's a huge one, and something that obviously you are very keen on in respect of, and aware of, exactly that power. People's buying decisions these days are being made before they've even sometimes spoken to somebody.
Yeah.
And
they know you.
Yeah, and they know you. Yeah, I get that all the time. Like, it's so much easier when I speak to people.
They've watched your content, they understand who you are. That whole building trust and credibility is done.
Yeah. And testimonials element as well. We are humans that want to be able to see that, okay, that other person, it's like keeping up with the Joneses.
It's worked for them.
Yeah.
So it should work for me.
It should work for them. Brilliant. Great. Chris, look, thanks for sharing your insights on sales. I know it's a huge passion of yours, and sales is the lifeblood of any business, and it's certainly been the lifeblood of Hoxton Wealth in your own personal career journey. And sales shouldn't be a dirty word in my eyes. I think within financial services it's been demonised and categorised in the wrong way for reasons that I understand, in respect to the UK and mis-selling and all of those typical types of things. At the end of the day, you want to protect people. But sales doesn't mean that you're misleading anybody. It's just a process that you follow to be able to offer the highest level of solutions and service to somebody.
I definitely don't think that you should be giving people misinformation.
No.
But I also believe that people are grown-ups, and when they make a decision, as long as they have all the information, they should be able to digest it and make an informed decision off the back of it.
100%. Cheers, Chris.
Thanks very much.